Hey guys, Kenny for Arrow, Season 4, Episode 11, A.W.O.L, and I was really looking forward to this episode. I was, of course, like I said, a bit underwhelmed by last week's mid-season premiere, but I was really hoping this episode would be great, and that, guys, is how you make an amazing episode of Arrow. I loved this episode. Mainly because of a couple reasons. One, it was very focused. It only focused on two plots, both of which were very interesting, and it really was more of a character-driven episode, and I really love that. I think Arrow, really at its best, really does a very good job when it focuses on character, and they did that very well here. And yeah, there wasn't a lot for Thea or Laurel to do in this episode, but I was fine with that because this episode was mainly about Diggle, and it was about Felicity, and I was fine with that. Let's just get into this episode because I overall really loved it. One of the best episodes of the season, in my opinion. Really love this episode. So let's just get into it. And I love the way this episode starts out because usually Arrow starts really big, but here, no, we just focus on Diggle and Lila. They're just taking a walk through the city, and they're worrying about getting home in time for the babysitter, and basically we meet Agent Shang, who is an old associate of Lila's. He's come to them and says he needs Lila's help getting in touch with Amanda, and he's been compromised, and basically suddenly a group of gunmen grab Chain, they fire a shot on Diggle, and luckily it's just a flesh wound, so he's gonna be okay, and they get away, and right away, very intense stuff. You don't know what's going on here, and I really love that. I mean, very good way to start the episode. So at home, Oliver walks Felicity down the stairs to her wheelchair, and yes, Felicity is permanently handicapped in this wheelchair. I'll admit, it did definitely take me some time to see her in this wheelchair, but I really like what they did with Felicity in this episode, because she tells Oliver that he needs to work on the Darhk problem and that he might have to do it without her, because now that she's in this wheelchair, she doesn't feel she's going to be as viable of a source to the team, and Oliver says that her superpower is her mind, and that very much is true. I mean, Felicity is the only person in the team that doesn't have a costume because she's always the one pretty much, looking up all the information, being the one, to look up everything, to hack into things. I mean, that's what Felicity does. But she says that there's a lot on it and she's not ready to come back yet, and she doesn't know if she can come back. She just doesn't think it's a good idea. So Oliver then gets a text from Diggle and Lila, has to excuse himself, and at the lair, Oliver and Laurel have joined Thea and the Diggles, and basically, Lila thinks that Chang was working on something off the books at the behest of Amanda, and Oliver says that they need to trace him before the kidnapping becomes something worse, because there's definitely something going on. They don't know what it is, they just know there's something going on. So Diggle then brings Andy a big belly burger, and we really focused on Andy and Diggle in this episode. As we saw last week, it definitely seemed like Andy and Diggle were starting to get on a good path. They were starting to reconnect, and especially in this episode, you definitely get that brotherly feel from them, and I definitely really like seeing that. Andy asks Diggle how he got hung up with the Green Arrow. He says he never gets to ask Diggle questions back, and he wants to know how Diggle ended up with Team Arrow, and I loved all of this. Every scene with Andy and Diggle tonight, I really love, because most of it just focused on Diggle revealing stuff about his past and finally getting to catch up with Andy, and I loved seeing that, because finally, Diggle can see him as a brother. He's moved past what Andy did, he understands why Andy had to do it, and he understands why Andy made the choice he did, but he's still his brother, and he's gonna treat him like a brother, and I love that. So, Diggle tells him that Oliver's a good man and they're helping their community, and I thought that was a very good way to get all the exposition out of the way. We already know what's going on, so Diggle simply saying that I thought was fine, and it seems like enough for Andy. And something else I loved in this episode that we rarely get to do is the flashbacks tonight were not focused on. I love when the show does flashbacks on other characters, like when we get pre-hacker Felicity in her black hair, or when we had that great flashback episode with Sarah, or in this case, when we did it with Diggle. It just really shows the characters' lives, what they were doing back then. It really makes them a lot more interesting, and they do a very good job with the Diggle ones. I thought these were also very good. we see a flashback to 2005 in Afghanistan when the brothers are working with a commanding officer who wants to go cut off a shipment of Taliban drugs that will pay for weapons. Their vehicle comes under fire despite some rash actions by Andy. Diggle manages to figure out a way to take out the other truck and get themselves away to safety. And this was really showing how great they worked as a team. I mean, these two, obviously, they used to be very close as brothers, and I definitely like seeing that. So at the apartment, Felicity takes more than her recommended dose of painkillers, and she's greeted by a vision of herself as the younger, dark-haired goth hacker that, of course, we saw in that episode where we found out more about Felicity's past and everything. And this was great. One of my favorite aspects of the episode was the psychological stuff that happened with Felicity here. I mean, really what Felicity goes through is very interesting. We'll get into this, but basically, at a murder scene, Laurel shows up to talk to cops, and after distracting them, invites Diggle to identify the body, and it's Chang. He's been tortured, and his eye has been taken. Very crazy stuff. I mean, literally, his eye's been taken, and at Argus, Amanda won't tell the Diggles anything about Chang's assignment, and obviously confidential reasons, but she's acting very weird. Like, she doesn't want to give them certain information. Why she doesn't want to, I don't know, but she tells Lila that she's been missed and shakes her hand, and Lila's surprised that Amanda actually shook her hand. She's very surprised and taken aback by how Amanda acted here. So in the next room, Lila shows Diggle that Amanda slipped her a thumb drive, and she doesn't know what's on this thumb drive, but Amanda's definitely acting a bit off. So she knows there's something on this flash drive, she just doesn't really know what it is right now. So at home, Felicity realizes that hallucinations are a common side effect to her painkillers, and she and Goth Felicity are going back and forth with her younger self, telling her that she wasted her life playing superhero, and now she's in the wheelchair because of it, and that all the choices she'd made, this is her fault. And I really love seeing this. I mean, obviously these are hallucinations, but in many ways, this is Felicity questioning herself, and I really like seeing that. Honestly, I think this was one of Felicity's strongest episodes. I really do. They really showed the character of Felicity and who she used to be, and I definitely really like seeing that. I think they definitely did a very good job with it here. So at the lair, Lila opens up the thumb drive. Chain had taken out a gun-running organization called Shadow Spire a few years ago, and his two partner agents on the sting are dead. And again, they're just dead. We don't know how, but they're dead. So Diggle comes in with some paperwork, obviously not really knowing what's going on, and basically he remembers Shadow Spire 2 from Afghanistan, and that is how you do flashbacks. I mean, when you have flashbacks are connecting to the main plot, that is when the show's going right, because when we have these flashbacks with Oliver, I don't really care, but when it connects to the main plot, that is when I really get into it, and I really love seeing that here. We then see Diggle and Andy are watching the opium that they confiscate when their CO comes to talk to them, suggesting that the three of them could make a lot of money if some of those drugs went A.W.O.L. So basically, we're seeing how they work with Shadow Spire, and Andy declines, not politely, and while he gets a threat from the CO for his troubles, Diggle is proud of him because he spoke his mind. He spoke how he felt about it. He wasn't afraid to say that, and clearly Diggle admires his bravery. He admires that Andy will bluntly tell you how he feels about things, and I definitely really like seeing that. Very good stuff there. So at the lair, Diggle angrily demands information about Shadow Spire from Andy. Andy says he has nothing to do with these guys anymore, but he knows how they operate and tells Diggle to look for the nearest free port as a base of operations. And obviously, Diggle wants answers. Andy's not giving them to him. And I bought that Andy really didn't know what was going on here, that he didn't really know, but Diggle isn't so sure, and basically at the nearest free port, Team Arrow scouts the area. Oliver calls out to Felicity, who takes down their security functions. Oliver and Diggle stay behind to deal with guards, while Thea and Laurel head for the hostage. But when they get there, the two missing Argus agents are dead. They've now died. And again, we don't know why this is happening. People just keep dying. So back at home, Felicity loses control of her hack, and the gates slam behind Oliver, trapping him inside and separating him from Diggle. And while Felicity panics and gets attacked by Goth Felicity, Oliver blows his way in, rescues Diggle. Really crazy stuff there. I mean, just seeing that Felicity isn't able to do what she loves because of these hallucinogens and because it's kind of making her question herself, I definitely really love seeing. I mean, Felicity, she usually is a master at this kind of stuff, and she always knows what what she's doing. So to see her not do a good job here and actually fuck up, I definitely really like seeing that because we're not used to Felicity messing up, and I thought they did a very good job with that. I definitely really love that part here. Really great stuff. So we get this really great scene between Oliver and Felicity. I loved all the scenes between Oliver and Felicity and I know there are people that don't like this relationship and just want it to end, but I really loved how they did this. They really explored, I think, pretty much every aspect of Oliver and Felicity's relationship tonight. They really did. So later, Oliver apologized to Felicity for pushing her, saying that he thought that getting back in the game would help her feel more normal, and she says that there is no going back to normal, that she can no longer be a part of the team because of her being handicapped, and Oliver says that she can't let her injury stop her, but she says she's trapped in the apartment all the time, and now she can't even use her mind, and Goth Felicity shows up, starts mocking her. She screams at Goth Felicity to shut up, but Oliver thinks that it's for him. And what Goth Felicity was saying to her, I thought was very interesting. She talked about how she's been playing this character all this time. That, when she dyed her hair and everything and made that choice to, be Felicity, this isn't actually who Felicity is. And definitely Felicity is starting to question herself. Is she still that person? Has she really just been living a lie for the past 6 years? That's definitely something that she's questioning. And Oliver thinks that this is his fault, and very, very good stuff. I definitely really like that, and seeing the conflict that Felicity was going through, they did a very good job with that. So at Argus, Diggle brings in Andy to be debriefed. They move him to a cell there, and Amanda comes to talk to Andy. She says that the agents were found dead today and were supposed to be guarding a shipment of railguns, and Andy says that that's not Shadow Spire style, and that if there's something that high profile they're involved in, it's a distraction. So at the lair, Oliver's training Laurel with boxing pads, and she tells him not to be so hard on himself about Felicity. And I really like what Oliver said here, because this is definitely something that we knew was going to come up at some point, and you can tell that it's been in the back of Oliver's mind. He really hasn't thought about it, and now really is the first time he's really thought about this. He talks all about how he's blamed himself for everything that's gone wrong since he encouraged Barry to time travel, because Barry warned him that changing the past has very negative effects on the future, and he feels that Felicity being handicapped is his fault because he didn't really listen to Barry. And I definitely really like the way this is going. It shows that Oliver makes mistakes, and one of the things I love is that this is not, Barry making decisions because of Oliver. This is Oliver making decisions because of Barry. And I think they did a very good job. And it's not because of Barry, it's just because he didn't listen to him. And I really like showing that. And showing that Barry's also making mistakes in the Flash, it just really shows that these are flawed heroes. They're, while they're heroes, they're still people. They make mistakes. And I think they are doing a very good job showing that on both Flash and Arrow. And especially on this episode, I really like seeing that. The conversation's eventually going to come up between Felicity and Oliver. When exactly it's going to come up, we don't know. But you can definitely tell that the whole thing with Samantha, it's in the back of Oliver's head. He wants to tell Felicity. He's not telling her. And definitely, I think that's something that's going to come up. I don't know when, but definitely that's going to come up at some point. So when Laurel's trying to make him feel better, Oliver gets a call from Diggle. They want to go keep track of the railgun shipment, and at the apartment, Goth Felicity goes from mocking Felicity to telling her to stop feeling sorry for herself, and like I said, to stop pretending she's a superhero. She leaves, and Felicity cries, and I felt bad for Felicity. I really did. I know there are people that are like, oh, Felicity's moping, I don't care, but here, I really thought it made sense. I mean, think about it. She has been living the past 6 years, in kind of a lie. She dyed her hair blonde, and she disguised who she really is because she was kind of ashamed who she was. She wanted a fresh new start, and now she's kind of like, look at where this has got me. Am I really this person? Have I been living a lie? Am I, still that goth Felicity that I used to be? Is that really who I've been all along? And I definitely really like seeing that. Really powerful stuff, and I really felt Emily Richards really sold that tonight. Definitely very good stuff with her character in this episode. So while Team Arrow stake out the railgun shipment, Lila and Amanda bicker about the politics of Argus when Shadowspire doesn't show up for the railguns. Oliver figures that something is wrong, and it is. A dozen or so Shadowspire agents have used Chang's stolen eye to beat Argus biometrics and get into the building, and we see Lieutenant Joyner, a Shadowspire agent recognizable from Diggle's Afghanistan flashbacks, is leading the troops, and he and Amanda actually know each other, and Joyner wants something called Rubicon. He says he'll kill an agent every 20 minutes until Amanda gives him access, and that was insane. I mean, him basically threatening that I'm going to kill every single one of these agents every 20 minutes unless you give me some access as to what's going on. I mean, crazy stuff. So, in the area where Diggle had been sitting with his brother near the cells, Diggle tries to hack the security monitors to get an outside signal, while Andy tells him that they need to make a move themselves, and basically, in Afghanistan, Diggle sees Andy talking to Joyner, but Andy talks his way out of trouble, and Andy, I think, just does a very good job at talking his way out of things, and I think that's one of the things that Diggle always loved, is that Andy kind of always seemed innocent, and I think one of the reasons that Diggle was so shocked is because he always seemed innocent. He was able to talk himself out of things. Like, he'd speak very bluntly, but he would say, like, oh, I'm not part of that, and definitely, I think that was one of the things that really shocked Diggle, that his brother did actually have, something in him, and I definitely really like seeing that. So at the lair, Felicity shows up telling Oliver that she's back, that she wants to be a part of Team Arrow to help people and to stop Darhk because it's what they do, it's who they are, and I think she's realizing that this is who she is. She needs to be part of the team. You know, she can't just quit. This is her life. This is what she's chosen, and I really love seeing that. It did feel a bit abrupt, but I think they handled it really well, considering the fact that I didn't really think they handled it the best last week, and that we barely focused on Felicity last week. I really like the focus that we got on her in this episode. Definitely really great stuff there. So a computer beeps, and Oliver gets a video feed from Argus showing that Lila is in danger, and at Argus, Joyner threatens to kill Lila to get access to the Rubicon, and Amanda says she's perfectly capable of watching them kill everyone in the room, and she'll still never give him what he wants, and when Lila confirms the claim, Joyner kills her and tells Lila that she now has 20 minutes to get him what he wants, and in the holding area, Andy begs Diggle to let him come along and help, and finally, Diggle is going to let Andy out of this prison cell, because I know there are a lot of people complaining, why is Diggle keeping him in there, you know, if he understands what he's doing, and Diggle obviously is hesitant, because he doesn't know if his brother is sincere. He wants to believe he is, but he's not sure, so I think that definitely is what's on Diggle's mind, that knowing that Andy is working with Darhk and all of them, and that he trusts Darhk, I mean, for all Diggle could know, Andy could betray him, so I think that really is what's in Diggle's mind. He does want to let his brother out, and he does want to let him help, but at the same time, there's that thought of, could this all be a plan of Darhk's, and was this really a setup all along? So Team Arrow arrives on the scene. Oliver calls Felicity Overwatch, her new code name, and she helps them break into Argus, and I like that he gave her a code name. It gave her a purpose, because that was the one thing that Felicity did not have. Everyone else really does have a code name, and Felicity doesn't, and it just shows that she is just as important as everyone else. I mean, think of what they would do without Felicity. They wouldn't be able to get as much information as they could. They wouldn't know the names. They wouldn't really know any of that stuff. So just the fact that Oliver gave her a code name was very sweet. I really like that. So in the holding area, two Shadowspire guys go get Andy. Diggle, who tells them to let Joyner know that he's dead, and he's willing to help. They walk Andy into the main room. Andy tells Joyner that Diggle is Lila's husband, and all they have to do in order to get what they want is hold a gun on Diggle. And Team Arrow starts working through the hallways, taking out Shadowspire guys, but another pair gets Diggle into custody. Joyner puts a gun at Diggle's head, and when Diggle tells Lila to do it, she starts keying in the Rubicon codes. Joyner puts down the gun. Felicity calls Team Arrow to tell them Diggle needs help. She's jamming what Lila is trying to do, but wants Canary and Speedy to near the secure vault where Rubicon is held as an insurance policy. And while she works, Goth Felicity shows up. Felicity tells her off, and that was awesome. The way that she was able to get rid of her, I love, just showing that she doesn't need Goth Felicity. She doesn't need all these hallucinations, because Felicity knows who she is. She's made this choice. You know, this is the life that she has, and she wouldn't really trade for anything else. So when Lila can't get into the sub-level vault, Joyner puts a gun on Diggle again. let me just say, very intense stuff here. Honestly, probably some of the best action we've had all season. I love this scene. Andy and Diggle team up to take down Joyner and a couple of his men. Oliver and Lila join in. It's a free-for-all until there's no Shadow Spire left standing, and really intense stuff. Honestly, they did a very good job with making that scene very intense, and I really love that. So Diggle then thanks Andy, who admits this whole thing was Diggle's idea, and basically it was all, Andy admits that this was Diggle's plan, and he really wouldn't have been able to do any of this without him, and I definitely like seeing that. So later at the lair, Oliver and Lila toast Amanda in spite of snarky remarks from Felicity, and Team Arrow guilt Diggle a bit about his brother. They, understand what he's doing, but they are a bit worried about what's going on, but I like that Diggle trusts Andy. He definitely has that trust. He understands that Andy's gonna have his back, and I really like seeing that. So, and I'm glad that Andy's out of the prison, because I will say that was getting a little bit like, come on, Diggle, just let him out of the prison. So I'm glad he's out of there. So in Afghanistan, Joyner gives an envelope of money to Andy. He says it's a token of appreciation from the boss, who joins them, and the boss is none other than Raider. Good way to connect it to what's going on with Oliver. I definitely like that. He says he traded the opium for a map to Lion U, and definitely, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see them again, in Oliver's flashbacks. And if that's what we're doing, showing if that Oliver met up with Diggle and Andy, it doesn't really make sense, but it makes the flashbacks more interesting. I think they're kind of realizing that the flashbacks aren't really working, so basically we'll have to see what happens there. At their apartment, Oliver then brings Felicity a box from storage, and she shows him a photo of herself as Goth Felicity, and these are the kind of scenes that I love. I always love the scenes between Oliver and Felicity, and she burns this photo saying that she doesn't need that person anymore. This was once her, she's not that person anymore, and this is kind of giving her that closure, that she knows who she is, and I think this is one of the first times that Felicity isn't, like, am I doing something wrong here? She knows what she's doing. She's fine with what she's doing. This is her life now, and she's perfectly fine with that. So I really like seeing that. Just giving her that closure was awesome. And Oliver tells Felicity that while he knows it's not healthy to live in denial about her condition, they live in a strange world. The fact that they saw Sarah brought back to life and things like that. He says he'll never stop looking for a way to make Felicity walk again, and just, I really like these giving her that reassurance that he'll do anything for her. We know that this relationship is doomed, because if you guys look at the flash forward, Felicity does not have her wedding ring on, so they're either going to call off, I'm going to say one of two things are going to happen. They're either going to call off the wedding and just remain as boyfriend and girlfriend, which I could definitely see that happen, or they're going to have that talk about Samantha, and definitely there's going to be a fallout, and there's going to be some bloodshed, but they're going to have to move on because of the death, and I definitely feel it could honestly be both. I could see them calling off the wedding, and I definitely know there's going to be a conversation at some point about Samantha. That conversation is definitely going to come up because they haven't had it yet, and knowing that Oliver already is very guilty about it, I could definitely see the conversation coming up very soon. When exactly, I don't know, but we'll have to see what happens there, because I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen with that. So, I love the way this episode ended, by the way. One of my favorite endings, probably of the season, because it wasn't a huge ending. It was just a very sweet ending. Diggle brings Andy to stay with him, and Lila, who assures Andy that she and Diggle made a decision together, and he introduces Andy to Sarah to see Andy welcoming him home, and basically that's the ending, and I really like seeing that, because finally Diggle now trusts Andy. It's taken him a while, but now he trusts Andy. He knows that Andy will have his back, and I thought that was a very good way to end the episode. So overall, guys, great episode. I love this episode. Definitely better than The Flash this week, honestly, and it's very rare that happens, but definitely I think Arrow was better than The Flash this week. I don't usually compare, but with this I really feel like I had to, because most of my complaints with Flash, are abysmal with Arrow. I didn't really have complaints here, because I really loved the way this episode was done. Definitely really enjoyed that. Let's talk about Oliver and Felicity, though, because they're definitely going to have that conversation. Like I said, they're either going to call off the wedding, or they're going to have a conversation about Samantha. We'll have to see what happens with that. As far as Andy and Diggle go, I really would love to see these two kind of solving, crimes together. I would definitely love to see that happen. I think that they work very well together. John, obviously, obviously Diggle's the one with the action and the but Andy's the one with the wits. Diggle's the one with the plan, is like the man with the plan, and Andy's kind of like the one that helps him out. And I think they work very well together. I'm interested in seeing if we're going to see them again in the flashbacks because it definitely seemed like the way we're headed, we honestly could see these two again. That could be very interesting if they did do that. I don't know if that's what they're doing, but definitely I think that there's a possibility that we could see these two again, and I like that. So we'll have to see what happens with that if we are possibly going to see them again. Definitely, I love seeing the goth Felicity again. It was great to see that. They kind of wasted an opportunity to see Felicity's mother again, but we've seen so much of her that I don't think we need to see Felicity's mother right now. We've seen so much of her. We don't need to see her again. But next week, Roy's back apparently next week. I looked at the description and it looks like Roy is coming back, so that should be very interesting to see if that's going to complicate things. Not too much with Darhk in this episode, but that was fine because we really need to focus on Felicity getting better so that way they can have, get over that drama and then have the confidence to take down Darhk, which is definitely going to happen. My biggest thing, though, is now that Andy's out of prison, is he going to work with them in taking down Darhk? Because obviously Andy understands Darhk, and I think that he's going to get behind Darhk when it comes to if he had to choose between Darhk and Diggle. That's my big question, is I definitely feel it's what's going to happen, is that Andy's going to have to choose between Darhk and Diggle. Who's he going to choose? Is he going to ally with Darhk because he understands what he's doing and he doesn't want Diggle to kill him, and bring him to justice? Or is he going to get by Diggle because he is his brother and he'll do anything for him? Andy really has a very difficult decision to make, and I'm definitely interested in seeing if we're going to run to that problem, because I could definitely see that happening. But overall, guys, love this episode. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I thought this was definitely one of the best episodes of the season. Really enjoy it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for a movie review, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.